Okay, I first will introduce very shortly myself. My name is Harald Reiter, and I'm from Philips Research, based in Germany. I've been with Philips for 15 years now, and since 8 years I'm active in the personal healthcare area or domain. And I will use this opportunity today to address the question how to develop the personal healthcare market. And for this I will first say something about the status of the personal healthcare market and give some examples of Philips' efforts in the existing businesses, standardization work, I thought it was already mentioned sometimes, and also European projects, and at the end I will give an outlook. But first start with the question, what is the personal healthcare market today? One thing is clear, we have a recognized need for personal healthcare. I think nobody will deny this. So the world population grows and ages. Demographic challenges demand a change in delivery of healthcare. This is clear. And also citizens and already governments recognize the need that there must be a change. This is already recognized. And it was already mentioned, the healthcare marketplace becomes more consumer-driven. So there's an increasing interest from people to be more active and more responsible and more in the center of managing their own health. And healthy lifestyle at the moment is also in. The next step, besides the recognized need, is that technology is, at least from my point of view, not the limiting factor. There are powerful personal healthcare technologies existing, and they are also evolving while we are here at this conference. And moreover, even personal healthcare solutions tailored to specific needs for applications are existing and evolving. They are tested, they are validated, but the market is still embryonic. And the question is really why? Is this the case? Why is this personal healthcare market not really flying? There are, of course, a lot of existing barriers, and we touched them already, some of them. So we have, let's say, industry and its players are facing many barriers, technology barriers, regulatory policy barriers, market barriers, especially financial barriers, because we have, let's say, shrinking operation margins in healthcare. There's no money left over for investments. But you have also cultural barriers, so physicians slowly adapt sometimes to new technologies, and organizational barriers, and this is sometimes quite difficult, is to protect the status quo, because sometimes there might be a party who loses when we introduce personal health care. So, but these existing barriers, of course, are creating open question, and the professional stakeholders, they are, of course, asking what is the medical impact, and who will benefit or lose by changing to using the personal health care systems, and who will pay for personal health care. This is one of the most important questions at all. And even the customers or the consumers or the patients ask themselves, what does it really bring to me? And this is really necessary and is this helpful? So these are questions for this, but also for the business. We still have open questions, and this is the business model, and I call it the business model challenge, because due to the barriers, the companies have to define their business model very carefully in the place where they want to implement the solution. And there's sometimes a lot of resistance from those who are not, let's say, the winner of these new technologies, and how to overcome this is something that has to be more resolved and has nothing to do with technology. But of course also the integration of personal health care into existing or new healthcare delivery models is a difficult task. And especially in Europe, so we have different health systems, so we have a holistic approach from one company that is, let's say, a valid proposition for all European countries is still not possible, and so we have to provide special solutions for each country. So what can we do as a personal healthcare company to be successful in this market? Of course, we have to answer these open questions, and here are some proposals. First, and this is the most important thing, is we have to make clinical and also economical validation of our personal healthcare solutions. This is an absolutely must. Second, so cooperation on European levels, bringing together all the involved stakeholders, is a very, very good opportunity to generate the critical mass. And we already mentioned it, standardization efforts to really put this market forward. I will roughly go to the validation. As I said, clinical validation really is a must, and especially if you differentiate between reimbursement structures and consumer as a payer. If you go for reimbursement and if you go to a healthcare insurance company and ask for money for special services, it's clear they are asked for clinical and economic validation. And this is really a must. Otherwise, they are not open to discuss even. And the acceptance by medical stakeholders requires statistical evidence. And this does mean it's not enough to provide a kind of validation test with 2 patients, unfortunately sometimes. And also economic studies on cost-benefit analysis are really required. And if we look at the consumer as the payer who is interested in his own health, then we have to say, okay, if you want to make a serious offer to this market, then also this solution needs at least medical endorsement, and therefore you also need medical proof. And I think we all know validation is difficult, is costly, is time-consuming, and it's involvement of many, many partners, and this is why this is so hard to do. So I think a very good opportunity to work on this is by cooperation in European projects, and it's really about bridging the gap between research and commercialization. Because from research here we have, I think, thousands of splendid good ideas and nice solutions, but what is at the end coming out as a product in the businesses is still poor. And if we are, especially in European projects, looking for patient studies, this of course force in the project to achieve a certain maturity level of hardware and software, including CE marking as medical devices, usability pre-studies. And these mature solutions, of course, also lower the threshold for exploitation of the project results later on. Major components here are still interoperability, user-friendliness, reliability, and dependability. And they need to be properly addressed, involving all the stakeholders, all the different views from a nurse, from a patient, from a professional doctor, and also the commitment from all these stakeholders. This is necessary. And also in European projects, we have to continue to research, develop, and validate the current personal healthcare solution technologies and also the services. And we have to support, of course, to develop the regulatory and legal and reimbursement infrastructure to support these new models. But this is not only things we have to do, there are also new opportunities in this personal healthcare market. And one big shift is, of course, so far we have mainly delivered boxes or products, but there is now a huge opportunity to really go from products to services. So integrated services allowing companies to generate added value to their customers, and we heard already in the talks before some of examples for this. And addressing consumers, there is increasing evidence that more and more people are willing to pay out of their own pocket. And I think this is a good trend, and this is already taken into account, and also here first products and services are popping up. And this is also a nice opportunity to come from an institution to a brand. So to convince well-informed patient, healthcare players will develop a brand which allows them to distinguish themselves. So if you are with your company, for example, Philips is seen as the healthcare company, this would, of course, give a good competitive advantage. I will now come to some Philips efforts in personal healthcare. These are some examples from the existing business and standardization and EU projects. We have one sector that is